What do you think, Ananda? What good does a disciple see that he should seek the teacher's company even if he is told to go away? Venerable Sir, our teachings are rooted in the Blessed One, guided by the Blessed One. Have the Blessed One as their resort. It would be good if the Blessed One would explain the meaning of these words. Having heard it from the Blessed One, the monks will remember it. Ananda, a disciple should not seek the teacher's company for the sake of discourses, stanzas and expositions. Why is that? For a long time, Ananda, you have learned the teachings, remembered them, recited them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view. But such talk as deals with effacement, as favors the mind's release, and which leads to complete disenchantment, dispassion, cessation, peace, direct knowledge and enlightenment and nibbana, that is, talk on wanting little, on contentment, seclusion, aloofness from society, arousing energy, virtue, concentration, wisdom, liberation, knowledge and vision of liberation. For the sake of such talk, a disciple should seek the teacher's company even if he is told to go away. I'll stop here for a moment. So at this point of time, I think the Buddha had already taught a lot of suttas to the monks, and the Buddha says they are already very familiar with the teachings, that is the suttas. They have recited them verbally, examined them and understood them. But the Buddha says that talk which is concerning having few ones on contentment, seclusion, aloofness from society, arousing, energetic effort, moral conduct, concentration, wisdom, liberation, knowledge and vision of liberation. For such talk, a disciple should seek advice from the teacher, even if he is told to go away. So these topics of talk are very important. Since this is so, Ananda, a teacher's undoing may come about, a pupil's undoing may come about, and the undoing of one who lives the holy life may come about. And how does a teacher's undoing come about? Here, some teacher resorts to a secluded resting place, the forest, the root of a tree, a mountain, a ravine, a hillside cave, a charnel ground, a jungle thicket, an open space, a heap of straw. While he lives thus withdrawn, Brahmins and householders from town and country visit him, and as a result he goes astray, becomes filled with desire, succumbs to craving, and reverts to luxury. This teacher is said to be undone by the teacher's undoing. He has been struck down by evil, unwholesome states that defile, bring renewal of being, give trouble, ripen in suffering, and lead to future birth, aging, and death. That is how the teacher's undoing comes about. And how does a pupil's undoing come about? A pupil of that teacher, emulating the teacher's seclusion, resorts to a secluded resting place, the forest, the root of a tree, a mountain, ravine, hillside cave, etc. While he lives thus withdrawn, Brahmins and householders from town and country visit him, and as a result he goes astray, becomes filled with desire, succumbs to craving, and reverts to luxury. This pupil is said to be undone by the pupil's undoing. He has been struck down by evil, unwholesome states that defile, bring renewal of being, give trouble, ripen in suffering, and lead to future birth, aging, and death. This is how the pupil's undoing comes about. Now, stop here for a moment. Here the Buddha is talking about a teacher and the pupil who goes to a secluded place to practice. But maybe because they become famous and a lot of people come to visit them and bring offerings and all that. So they get a lot of offerings, they become famous. And then they go astray. It's very easy to go astray, especially when a monk becomes famous. So this is said to be a teacher's undoing and a pupil's undoing. These two refers to external ascetics, not to the Buddha's disciples. And this, as a result of this, they will they will continue on the round of samsara, the round of rebirths, and also they will suffer, having been overcome by name and fame and offerings and all that. And how does the undoing of one who lives the holy life come about? Here Tathagata appears in the world, Arahant Samasambuddha, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime, knower of worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened, blessed. He resorts to a secluded resting place, the forest, etc. While he lives thus withdrawn, Brahmins and householders from town and country visit him. Yet he does not go astray or become filled with desire, succumb to craving and revert to luxury. But a disciple of this teacher, emulating his teacher's seclusion, resorts to a secluded resting place, the forest, the root of a tree, a mountain, etc. While he lives thus withdrawn, Brahmins and householders from town and country visit him, and as a result he goes astray, becomes filled with desire, succumbs to craving, and reverts to luxury. This one who lives the holy life is said to be undone by the undoing of one who lives the holy life. He has been struck down by evil, unwholesome states that defile, bring renewal of being, give trouble, ripen in suffering, and lead to future birth, aging, and death. Thus there comes to be the undoing of one who leads the holy life. And herein, Ananda, the undoing of one who leads the holy life has a more painful result, a more bitter result than the teacher's undoing, or the pupil's undoing, and it even leads to perdition. Stop here for a moment. So here, the Buddha is talking about a Buddhist monk, a disciple of the Buddha, the Tathagata. And here he is said to be the one who leads the holy life. Whereas the earlier when the Buddha talked about the teacher and the pupil, he does not say that they lead the holy life, because the real holy life is the path taught by the Buddha, the path that leads out of the round of rebirths. That's why the real holy life is to be found in the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Buddha says, one who has already come to the Noble Eightfold Path, if you go astray, and then the result is much more bitter than an external ascetic. It can even lead to hell, because the teaching is so good. Our teacher is so good, the Buddha, and so when we inherit something that is so good, and we go the wrong way, then we have to pay much more than somebody who follows an external teacher. Therefore, Ananda, behave towards me with friendliness, not with hostility. That will lead... stop here for a moment. So this one set me a thinking. It's not only for monks, even for lay people. Lay people, you have come to the Buddha's teachings, which is so perfect, utterly pure. You don't make use of it. When you pass away, you're going to regret very much. You're going to realize such a valuable thing has come into your hands, and you just threw it away, and you will have much more remorse than if you, for example, if you followed an external teaching, and the teaching is not worth much. If you threw it away, you don't regret very much. But if you have come into such a perfect teaching as the Buddha's Dhamma, and you don't make use of it, that amounts to throwing it away. So when you, at the end of your life, you will regret terribly, not only for a monk, also for lay people. Therefore, Ananda, behave towards me with friendliness, not with hostility. That will lead to your welfare and happiness for a long time. And how do disciples behave towards the teacher with hostility, not with friendliness? Here, Ananda, compassionate and seeking their welfare, the teacher teaches the Dhamma to the disciples out of compassion. This is for your welfare, this is for your happiness. His disciples do not want to hear or give ear or exert their minds to understand. They err and turn aside from the teacher's dispensation or teaching. Thus do disciples behave towards the teacher with hostility, not with friendliness. And how do disciples behave towards the teacher? With friendliness, not with hostility. Here Ananda, compassionate and seeking their welfare. The teacher, that means the Buddha, teaches the Dhamma to the disciples out of compassion. This is for your welfare. This is for your happiness. His disciples want to hear and give ear and exert their minds to understand. They do not err and turn aside from the teacher's dispensation. Thus do disciples behave towards the teacher with friendliness, not with hostility. Therefore, Ananda, behave towards me with friendliness, not with hostility. That will lead to your welfare and happiness for a long time. I shall not treat you as the potter treats the raw damp clay. Repeatedly restraining you, I shall speak to you, Ananda. Repeatedly admonishing you, I shall speak to you, Ananda. The sound call will stand the test. That is what the Blessed One said. Remember, Ananda was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. Now this part, last part now, I'd like to elaborate a bit now. Here the Buddha says that we should behave with friendliness towards the Buddha. That is by hearing what the Buddha says in his discourses and give ear and exert the mind to understand what the Buddha is trying to teach us. And if we don't pay attention to the Buddha's teachings and try to understand, then we are behaving with hostility towards the Buddha. Actually, many people have come to the Dhamma and they don't study the Buddha's words well enough. They don't know that there are certain suttas, like in the Nikaya, Sutta 29, where the Buddha says that his teachings, his suttas are complete and perfect and utterly pure. There is no other teaching so perfect, so pure as the Buddha's teachings. And the Buddha says, if you want to add to his teachings, you don't understand his Dhamma. If you want to subtract from his teachings, also you don't understand his Dhamma. In other words, we should stay only to the original discourses of the Buddha found in the 4 Nikayas and 6 books of the Khuddaka Nikaya, the 5th Nikaya, the original teachings of the Buddha. Unfortunately, nowadays there are additional teachings to be found which are not the Buddha's words. We know, for example, the Abhidhamma, the commentaries, later books like the Visuddhimagga, later sutras like the Mahayana Sutras and all this. And the Buddha has warned in the Samyutta Nikaya 20.7 that in time to come, the disciples, that means the Buddhist monks, will not want to listen to the Buddha's words. Instead, they want to listen to the words of disciples. The word of the disciples refers to later monks who wrote the Abhidhamma, later monks who wrote the commentaries, later monks who wrote the Visuddhimagga, who wrote the Mahayana Sutras and all that. So the Buddha has already warned us not to listen to those teachings, but to only keep to his original suttas. So if we don't want to investigate the Buddha's original suttas and understand them, then we are behaving with hostility towards the Buddha. So it's very important to study suttas like this and to behave towards the Buddha with friendliness by investigating his original suttas and trying to understand his original suttas and not later writings of other monks. So this sutta is a very important sutta, Mahasunnata Sutta, Greater Discourse on Voidness. To recap, the first part, the Buddha says, a monk does not shine by delighting in company, by delighting in society. So the Buddha obviously encourages monks to live alone, because the Buddha says only by living alone a monk can attain the bliss of renunciation, the bliss of seclusion, the bliss of peace, the bliss of enlightenment, namely the jhanas, and also one who takes delight in company and in society will never be able to obtain liberation of mind that is temporary, that is the jhanas, or liberation of mind that is perpetual and unshakable, the various Aryan stages, the paths and the fruits. So it is obvious from here that solitary living for a monk is very important if he wants to get out of samsara. Then the Buddha says that if he inclines his mind towards the signless concentration of mind, voidness, then if people come to talk with him, he invariably talks in such a way as to dismiss them. So it doesn't encourage too much talking. And then the Buddha says a monk should engage in talk that only deals with effacement, talk on wanting little, on contentment, seclusion, aloofness from society, arousing energy, virtue, concentration, wisdom, liberation, knowledge and vision of liberation, and not to engage in worldly talk. And then the Buddha also said to constantly review the mind, whether the mind is excited by the 5 chords of sensual pleasure, and if the mind is excited by 5 chords of sensual pleasure, then should make more effort to attain the bliss of seclusion, the bliss of renunciation, so that he goes into his mind rather than outwards into the worldly pleasures. And also the Buddha says to abandon the conceit I am is very important, to see impermanence in the 5 aggregates, which are also the body and the mind. Constantly to see impermanence in the body and the mind, and slowly we will cut the conceit I am. And then the Buddha also warns that once a monk has come into the Dhamma, and if he goes astray, it's very dangerous for a monk who wears the robe to go astray. It can even lead him to hell. And then lastly, the Buddha says that we should behave with friendliness to the Buddha by trying to understand his words in the original teachings. And then the Buddha says that Ananda, I shall not treat you as the potter treats raw damp clay. In other words, I won't treat you as something very delicate. The Buddha says he constantly admonishes his disciples. His sound call will stand. So actually a lot of people don't know the Dhamma. They think showing compassion means to be to speak kind words to the disciple all the time. You find this is not what happens with the Buddha. Buddha sometimes, when the disciples do something wrong, he will scold them, call them foolish men, and so that's the way that the Buddha says that actually that is compassionate. That's a real compassion. And a disciple needs to be scolded. The teacher should scold the disciple so that he will wake up. Otherwise, he won't wake up. Okay, anything to discuss?
Just that last week, in that last week, the article says 27, Ananda is now for extend the place. Is that referring to that saying that the teaching from sound and thought?
No. What he means is those genuine disciples will withstand all that scolding. Those genuine monks, because sometimes the Buddha talks about genuine monks and fraud monks.
About the disciples, for 7 days, disciples, 7 days, 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 when most of the lay disciples, they don't go to one detail like so most I find that very few disciples will stick to a teacher with a long-term like
Yes, yes. Because there are a lot of monks who like to be popular. So sometimes they know what is the real Dhamma, what is not the real Dhamma. But they dare not speak out because they want to have a lot of disciples, they want to have a lot of supporters, they want to be popular, they want to be famous. So they dare not speak out. So they tend to speak words which people like to listen. Sometimes they even say that their disciples have attained various stages of attainment and all these things. But that is not the Buddha's way. The Buddha, in the suttas you find the Buddha says, if it is white, we should say it is white. If it is black, we should say it is black. We should speak the truth. No fear or favor. But how can he say that the liberation by wisdom is 4 jhanas? What is his basis for saying that? Because we find for example, Venerable Sariputta is supposed to be liberated by wisdom. That is what the commentaries say. And in the Anupada Sutta, we found that Venerable Sariputta has attained all the 4 rupa jhanas, all the 4 arupas, and plus cessation of perception and feeling. So he is still liberated by wisdom. So what he says has no basis. In case any one of you is interested, I've written about this liberation by mind and liberation by wisdom in my book, Samatha and Vipassana. Yeah, but that opinion, I think, even is a lot of the Mahayanis won't support that, isn't it? Okay, shall we end here?